I'm back. I was out for a while, but the Three of Money Amigos carried on in my absence. But it is good to be back on with you all because everybody's been talking about this looming recession. You know, what do you think about as an employer? What should you be thinking about as an employer? What should you be thinking about as an employee being hired right now? These are things we're going to cover today. And before we dive in, of course, we have to introduce everyone. So, Beverly, if you can do an introduction.
Sure. It's good to be back also after this holiday weekend. But I am Beverly Winstead. I am known as the IRS help attorney, and I help people that typically have problems with the IRS, whether they owe IRS a bunch of money and they want to figure out how they can perhaps get a settlement with IRS, or if they're going through an audit, or if they want to go to tax court and sue. We help and do those things also and help people with unfiled tax returns. So I'm definitely happy. And this is a really good topic that we're talking about today. Very timely.
It is. Hi, my name is Joyce Trunk of Premier Group. We're a CPA firm in the Washington, D.C. area. We assist you with all of your auditing, accounting, and tax needs.
And my name is Brent Simpson. I am the co founder, along with Leon Noble, of Investing Education Academy, where we help people learn the best ways to invest their money and invest in the market as a whole because there's a lot happening right now. And trust me, you want to be part of a community so you can do the right things. So, with that being said, today, how to prepare and what to think about ahead of a possible recession. Now, there's is 90% chance we're probably going to hit a recession, but let's still be positive and think, well, is it so bad? I'm gonna start there. Is a recession the worst thing in the world? Because people have been throwing it around like it's a four-letter word. And right now, a recession actually isn't a bad thing for the economy. And the reason why I say that is money spending has been going crazy. And the government is trying to slow spending. Now, if spending slows organically because of an inflationary environment, recessionary environment, that actually can stop the Fed or slow the Fed's raising of interest rates, which is a good thing. The reason why that's good is because it can continue to drive up costs for buying cars, borrowing money, buying houses, buying commercial properties, looking at vacation homes, looking at business loans. And those things, the interest rate can stop increasing. It makes money more readily available for businesses to continue to operate and for people to live their lives. Now, the thing is, if a recession doesn't happen, that's going to cause the Fed to continue to just raise rates
Right.
because this economy will get slowed down either through the Fed or through the recession. And so, in the recessionary environment, it normally slows people down, so they start thinking twice about spending money. Now, where do they spend? Maybe they're not just driving because they just want to take a drive today. Maybe they're riding a bicycle. Maybe they're taking a walk. Maybe they just don't go. When you're at the grocery store, people aren't doing as much. There's discretionary spending. That pattern changes, and so don't think about it like a bad thing. Like most people see like chaos in the streets, people running around. Nobody has any money, can't afford groceries. It's not that type of situation, especially nowadays. It's really about becoming a smarter consumer, creating some type of budget, and you will survive it the same way we survive other recessions. And so, yeah, that's one of the things I wanted to say to kind of set us off. But let's start the group off with a question. So for business owners, especially the small business owners out there who are thinking, "Oh my gosh, I'm a small business owner. This is going to crash my company." What are you all's thoughts?
Well, you want to start back? Well, the first thing I would say is they need to look at their client base, and it may be time to diversify and not cut your losses, but really review your client base and who you're extending credit to. So, for example, you might be invoicing people 30 days after the work is done. If in a recession, sometimes that may cause your clients, if they're not strong enough themselves, that may cause an impact on you because it impacts your cash flow and your ability to actually get paid. And so you may want to consider, as soon as the invoice goes out, having a system where you get paid immediately, or you have a credit card on file, or an ACH, or some way to capture the payment a lot quicker, because if one of your clients is impacted by the recession, that impacts you too, and it just trickles effect. And so let's say you let them go and they owe you $5,000 or $10,000. Most businesses of any size can't handle that type of hit when that money is not coming in. Doesn't mean you're not going to close, but it has some kind of trickle down impact to you as a business owner.
And Bev, what are your thoughts?
I think Joyce is exactly correct. I will also say it's very important, going back to what you said, for business owners to really, at this point in time, to work with a good CPA firm that can help them understand their numbers. And their numbers are going to be important. They need to set budgets up front and then really make financially driven decisions, uh, more so now than ever, as opposed to emotionally based decisions.
Mm.
Right now, it's not the time. You really have to be tight, and there's not going to be a whole lot of room for error in this economy. So again, the work that Joy does is going to be super critical to help businesses stay afloat.
Yeah, and I want to let you all know who are service providers out there, and your business is about providing service. You need to make sure your services matter. You need to make sure whatever you're offering to your clients, they actually need and appreciate and want and can afford. And so, when going to, because let's talk about the opportunities in this, and let's not just talk gloom. There's a
Mm.
lot of opportunities in this to become more entrenched in your company's businesses because you can actually help them make more money. I've had a number of clients actually increase my services going into this time frame because they want to make sure they're bulletproof as much as possible. And they also have new lines of businesses they want to make sure that they release in a very systematic way. So it's not always like, oh my gosh, this is going to end. Sometimes you need to prepare for expansion during these times, because if you do have the type of business, which both Attorney Winstead and Joyce Strunk CPA is, people are going to come to them. People are going to continue to have problems with the IRS. It's not going to change. It's probably going to get worse. And then you have the people who are trying to make sure their books are right, make sure they're making prudent CFO based decisions. They're going to need a CPA firm to support them on that, because it was some emotional stuff, or maybe they were just riding the high of success. Like, you know what, money just keeps coming in, so I don't need to think about budgets. I don't. You only think about a budget when you're losing money. That's not true. Because again, when you look at going for loans, when some of these programs came out, if it weren't for Beverly and Joy, I don't know where I'd be. And I'll easily say that they have to call me and walk me through several of the forms. They have to look at my paperwork 20,000 times, because we had to make sure it was the right, it was set up properly so I could submit requests for grants or loans. And if you don't have these people, you could be missing, and I'm not exaggerating, hundreds of thousands of dollars, because you just aren't structured or ready to receive in any other way that you're used to. So now let's kind of spin it for those who are listening, thinking, okay, I have a business and I'm really concerned that it's going to affect payroll.
Mm.
What are some of the things you all would say to somebody thinking, what, even though it might be next year or later this year that we really fully are into recession, which really technically we're like borderline recession now,
We're
but
recession adjacent.
yeah, it what should people be thinking about as it relates to maintaining payroll in this environment?
They really should be looking at lines like credits, and again, their current contracts, and also possibly diversifying their client base. If there were clients that you were looking at, or things that you were attempting to do, and for example, if you're on a commercial side and you haven't gone into the government space, this might be a good time to do that.
Real quick, Joy, is there's a little bit of feedback. Are one of you all listening to this somewhere else? Okay, let me see if I
I've
can.
been hearing the feedback since we started.
Okay,
I just thought it was me.
Yeah, I
all
know.
right, I'll try to see if I can do something on my end, but please continue.
No, no, no. So yes, you want to look at everything. This is, I think, COVID may have made us a little bit more comfortable, because there was, at first we were looking at kind of cutting costs, and then as money started coming in, we got so comfortable that we just assumed the money would continue to flow. And so it goes back to what Beverly said about emotional decision making.
Yeah,
We just need to be we need to pay attention to what's happening now.
yeah. And I would tell everybody, make sure you understand what your accounts receivable looks like. I would do some historical, discovery, just to kind of see like what has been your pattern over the last 6 months. Has it been trending up? Is it trending down? Is it sideways? And based on what you see when looking at that, then look at your expenses. Same question. Is it trending up or is it trending down? Is it trending sideways? Compare those two, because that's going to help you make what we said, a non-emotional based decision, and one is based on numbers. And so maybe expansion is something you need to consider right now. And sometimes, shrinking your client base and going deeper with your clients is as profitable as growing new clients. You just have to think about what makes sense during these time frames. And from a tax standpoint, Beverly, I want to give you a direct question. It's a lot of people who they already owe the IRS money, and they're in a payment plan, and they're pretty stressed out. Like, I might not be able to continue making these payments at the agreed upon um, amount. Like, are there any options for them heading into the season?
Yeah, that's actually a very good question. Um, because sometimes, and this is more important with the state of Maryland or the state of North Carolina or whatever state you're dealing with, is to communicate, right? And so you have to communicate your change in financial circumstances, right? And we do that for a lot of clients. When they may have worked with us 2 years ago and we've negotiated a payment plan or offering compromise or something, and then all of a sudden there's a change in circumstances. They may lose a job, or they may lose a contract if they're self-employed. And one of the worst things you could do is sit back and not say anything. One of the worst things you could do is sit back and not um, just default out of your payment plan or whatever agreement that you've negotiated. We always like to be proactive, and we encourage our clients, if there is a change in circumstances, to give us a call. Like, we need to go back to the IRS and we need to say, hey, we need to figure out something differently because what we negotiated last year or the year before last no longer works for this client. How
And
can we get into something different? Mm-hmm.
Bev, let me ask, what is the fallout for those people who, let's call it what it is, they get in their feelings, and sometimes it's not all pride, sometimes it's just fear. And they think, if I just don't say anything to anybody, maybe nobody will notice me. Or some reason they just don't contact the IRS and they default. Like, what is the risk that comes with defaulting on an existing payment plan?
Yeah, so IRS can, or the state, they can levy bank accounts, they can garnish wages, they can seize property, they can file an injunction. It's a lot of things that they have at their disposal. I will say this, um, IRS has kind of been relaxed with collections, but now we can definitely see, and Troy, I know you do some of this work. You can see an uptick in them being much more aggressive. You know what? Yeah, much more aggressive. I was just thinking, I was like, wait a minute. Speaking of aggressive, I just had an RO. I think I had a meeting with them today, but I forgot I rescheduled it. Um, where she wanted to meet with my client at their house. You know, so I called her and I said, Miss Doe, now, I don't want you to meet with my client at their house. You're more than welcome to come to my office, and we could talk about what we need to do to get the client back into some type of arrangement with IRS. So that's why it's important in a lot of instances to have representation, because the IRS feel like at on a lot of times they feel like they can do whatever they want to do. You know.
And they
And it's an
move like that because
intimidation
we don't
factor.
know our rules.
Yeah, it was
Right.
definitely an intimidation factor.
It's an
Yeah.
intimidation tactic.
And when we don't know any better, our normally our default is yes, because we just don't want to make anybody mad.
Mhm.
And that's where we go wrong, and we think is, oh, so I'll handle it myself because it's cheaper. It's not. It costs you far more money to try to figure it out on your own than to hire one of these professionals here. So we're going into the season where all your money matters, and when you look at who you're paying and what you're paying, the other thing that we want to throw out there is you need to check your credit cards. Anybody that has any type of revolving credit or adjustable rates or balloon payments on a house, whatever it might be, you need to call and check the rates, because credit card companies are raising rates. Then in all cases they send notices, but it's in the fine print at the bottom of a statement and nobody reads it. So if you have credit cards, call to see if the rates have changed. And then also too, you're being rewarded right now for having really good credit. So where some people are getting hit hard because their credit is horrible, others are being rewarded because the credit card companies, they're a business. So they want to keep good paying clients. So if your credit score is a really good score, you're getting benefits on your credit rating in this market. But sometimes you have to ask for it. They're just not going to dish it out. But if you call and say, you know what, I've been with you all this long, my credit score is X, I just wonder if you could lower the rate. In some cases, you'll get a hold, and then they may say I have to talk to a supervisor. But sometimes you'll hit gold and they'll come back and say, well, you know what we can do is lower it 1%, 2%, 3%. In the long run, that matters, because your debt also doubles at the same rate you use the rule of 72. So if you're looking at saving 3%, you could have wiped what, like, let me see, I gotta do the math just to make sure I can say it right.
Brent got the calculator out.
Yeah, I did. 24 years. You're talking about taking 24 years off your debt.
Yeah.
By making a phone call. So just understand, going into this, recessionary environment, there are things that you could be doing both as a consumer, an employer, and an employee. And Joy, I wanted to touch on something you mentioned earlier, is what are some of the questions new hires should be asking companies going into this type of environment?
Things like, are you financially stable? Have you ever done a layoff before? What is your projection, your projected bottom line for the next 6 months? You should be interviewing a company at the same time that they're interviewing you, to make sure that you don't wind up like one of my recent LinkedIn connections who took a job and then 30 days later got laid off. You don't want to be in that situation. So do not be afraid to ask those types of questions to the employer that is potentially looking to hire you.
And going a step further, just asking if they have enough operating capital to survive a few months of shortfall in revenue if it happens. And this goes back to one of the things that Beverly always talked to me about was having a relationship with the banker. And she made me more aware of the benefits of that. And I've witnessed, I've been a beneficiary of having a relationship with the banker. These are things you might want to ask in the interview. Do you all have a working relationship with a bank? Because these are questions also it's going to help the employer know you're more savvy than they thought.
Mm-hmm.
So understand, it's not just a question of asking these questions to just be a jerk or to, drill them, but they're going to walk back like this person is really prepared. Mm-hmm. And if you're prepared in that interview and willing to ask those uncomfortable questions, you're probably going to represent their company really well.
Right.
So you're going to stand out amongst the others, but at the same time, you're protecting yourself better than some of the others. So we're giving you strategy in these phone calls. And these, when you listen to this podcast, it's not just one-sided, like we're trying to get new clients. These are things that you can use to make your life better. But of course, if you do need service from any of us, this is a great transition.
Yes.
We're going to tell you how you can get in contact with us. I'll start because I normally don't start. So if you are trying to figure out, like, what should I do with my money that I do have, and everybody's scared of the market and everybody knows the turmoil in the market. But the one thing, the Great Depression, 2008, the credit crisis, the terrorist attacks, and the .com bubble bursting, what all these things have taught us is that the market comes back. And if you're in it at the time, I promise you, I'm not excluded from this. It hurts. But it is a great time to invest, because if you're coming in at the bottom of a market, and I'm not saying that it even is the bottom, but the bottom will come. And once the bottom comes, there's too much money in America and too much greed in America to let the stock market fail. And so with that being the case, it's just a matter of when does it go back up. So it's a great time to invest. And if you need to know more about how to do that, you can join us at Investing Education Academy. You can go to ieanow.com to join, or reach out to me on Facebook, and I can tell you more about the organization. Joy?
Sure. So I am Joy Sistrunk of Premier Group. If you want to reach us, you can reach us at 301-577-6444 or on our website, www.pgs-cpa.com for all of your accounting, finance, and CFO needs.
All right. And Beverly?
Beverly Winstead. You can reach me online at my website at www.irshelpattorneys.com. You can also call the office at 301-306-1234.
All right, everybody, thanks for being with us. And if you want to check out some of our other podcasts, you can go to 3 Money Amigos